Welcome to Speaking of Adoption, where we dive into the heart of adoption, sharing real stories, breaking down myths, and shining a light on how adoption can be done with love, integrity, and respect. Whether you're a birth parent, adoptive family, adoptee, or just someone who wants to learn more, this is a space for honest conversations and meaningful connections. Join us as we explore the beautiful, complex, and life-changing world of ethical adoption. Let's get started. Okay, today we have our director here with us, and if you are interested, you can go listen to our very first episode where Yvonne talks about how her personal adoption experience showed her some unethical gaps and lack of compassion within the adoption world, and the whole reason she wanted to build an agency that put love, support, and respect at the center. But today we're sitting down because there's been some conversation about Utah adoption agencies, including some hurtful and false claims about a guardian angel. So we want to clear up the misinformation and share the truth about how we serve birth mothers and families with transparency, compassion, and ethics. So Yvonne, maybe let's start with, before we jump into all the claims, how did we even end up in the Times article?
Okay, so I've been hearing, I have belonged to the Utah Adoption Council, and recently they formed the Utah Adoption Consortium. And so in talking to the other agencies, I had heard that they had been hit with the Times and with a couple of other groups that have been attacking them on social media and those kinds of things, but we hadn't ever had any issue with it. And so I just kind of felt like we were fine. We hadn't had any licensing violations. We still haven't ever. And so I just felt like we were okay. And then one day, because I don't follow all the social media stuff, it makes me upset. And so one day I got a text from one of the other agencies, and she sent me the article that the Times had written naming us. And I think what happened, I think the way they found us is, we did a video and put it on our website showing our apartments because we want our moms, they fly clear across the country and they're trusting us to take care of them. And so we put a video on our website that showed our apartments. And I think that gave these groups the location of where we were. And then our birth moms started receiving flyers on their porches and on their front doors. And it would say things like, have you been, trafficked to Utah? Those kinds of things. No, you're right. And kind of inferring that we hadn't let them know they're right. Excuse me. And so a lot of our birth moms felt kind of a little rattled by that because they were protecting their confidentiality and they felt like, how does somebody know I'm here? And so they were a little bit nervous about that. Another thing is, as we looked over the flyer, it talks about knowing their rights, and it tells all of the things. It could be our paperwork if you just change the logo. It tells all of the things that we tell our birth moms before coming to Utah, so our birth moms really are informed. So I read the article and realized that it was one of our moms that had come out. She had actually requested some things from us that we couldn't ethically give her. She wanted us to pay for higher education. And we can't justify that in front of a judge. We can't have an adopted family pay for higher education for moms. We can help them with their GED and those kinds of things. And so she was upset with us and remembered she had that flyer and contacted them. So the only truth in the article is that I can recognize that it's our the expectant mom we worked with because I know her story, and part of her story was in the article. So I knew it was actually our birth mom. But that was really where all of the valid, truthful information ended. So that's kind of how we ended up in the Times. And I actually contacted our attorney, and he said, that you probably would have a defamation suit. And we kind of talked about that. And I just feel like we have so much good work to do. And I don't want to spend my time putting negative out there and chasing after people. I really want to spend my time doing adoption because that's what I love. So we opted to write a press release kind of refuting the claims. And we posted some of the things that the Times got wrong on our social media. And then we wanted to share today with, everybody on this podcast so that they could hear again directly from us the claims that have just been made against us that are completely false.
Yeah, that's great. So we're going to touch on some of the main claims that were made, and then it's quite a lengthy article, but people can go and read it after if they're interested in more. So we'll talk about that at the end. But okay, well, let's jump into the first claim if you're ready.
Yes, ready.
So the first claim is that agencies coerce birth moms into adoption.
So there are really strict guidelines that govern how you help a birth mom through a placement. And none of those would allow coercion. And so, beside the fact that I and nobody on our staff ever want an adopted family or a birth mom to place her baby with an adopted family, if she doesn't feel comfortable with it, it's hard enough to watch what they go through knowing that it's what they want. I never, ever want to send a birth mom away having placed her baby when she didn't feel 100% comfortable. We do have counselors that work with them from the beginning. We first we read to them this form that lays out all of their rights before we even begin working with them. And then when they come, they meet with a social worker, and she goes over all of the legalities of all the paperwork that they sign, and so that they fully understand, and there is no coercion in any way, shape, or form. Some of the claims have been that we have them sign a contract prior to coming to Utah, and that's just not true. We do have like a statements of understanding where we ask them, we share with them our apartment rules and those kinds of things, and just ask them to be truthful with us. But nothing can legally be signed until the baby's at least 24 hours old. And there just isn't coercion with our agency. I hope with no agencies, but we really, really do not ever want a birth mom to place her child unless she is 100% sure that this is what she wants to do.
Yeah, it's not about forcing a choice. It's about making sure they feel supported and empowered to make the choice that feels right for them. Yeah.
Right. And we have to remember, I remember one time I came home after doing a placement, and I just ran upstairs, and at the placement it was a married couple, and they were an amazing couple, and I didn't feel like they should be placing their baby. It was so sad to me. And they just were 100% sure though, and the dad kept looking at me like, it's gonna be okay, right? It's gonna be okay. And we talked through it and made sure that that's what they wanted to do, and they wanted to move forward. And I remember I came home and I ran upstairs and crawled to my bed and put the covers over my head, and I cried all night long. And I said to my husband, what are we doing here? What are we doing? I mean, I felt so terrible for this family. And he just reminded me that, they had their reasons and that they contacted us. They called us because they needed our help and they needed our support. And in the end, it was their decision. We empowered them to do what they wanted to do for their baby so that they would know their baby had what they wanted for that baby. And so I never, ever want a birth mom to move forward not feeling comfortable.
Yeah. Okay, so the next claim is lack of oversight in Utah.
So I feel like we are pretty well overseen. We have a licensing we keep up on the regulations. They seem to change often. And we meet with our licensor every year. They pull files and go through the files, make sure that every single thing that is supposed to be done was done. Make sure that we read the form to the birth moms that tells them all of their rights. Make sure that we gave them all of the counseling, covered all of the topics that are required in each counseling visit. That we were really careful with the match. That we had all of the information that we needed for match, and we knew exactly what the birth mom wanted in the hospital and wanted post-placement as far as contact with the family. And so they make sure that every single thing is done. They make sure that all the receipts are in place, that we have all of the expenditures are allowed. And it also is overseen by an attorney and a judge, an ICPC office, another ICPC office possibly, because there's the birth moms and the families, and then also the family's attorney. So there is a lot of oversight. I know that people don't like Utah adoption laws. I don't really know anything different except for Utah. I mean, we have worked in other states. We don't get to make the laws. And honestly, I think that it's been a little bit eye-opening to see how little input the public has into lawmaking. When we've had opportunities to meet the legislature, it's been, quick. You got to hurry and get done. And it's almost like they already know what they want to do. I don't feel like people have a chance to be heard. And I don't know if legislators have a chance to understand all of the broad areas that they are required to know so that they can make a sound vote on things. And so we're going to actually reach out to them and help them understand. Obviously, we'll follow whatever the laws are in Utah. We always have and we always will. And so, as far as oversight, I don't know. I feel like we're pretty well covered in that we know all of the things we have to do and we're super careful about it. And so, if laws need to change, I get that people might feel that way. But for right now, we're following the laws of Utah, and we're also following what we consider to be ethical adoption practices. We actually add on top of those. And so I think we're pretty well overseen by ourselves and by the state and many others. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on all that because people don't know what all goes behind adoption, and especially in our agency. I feel like we go above and beyond. Like you said, we're doing things on top of what licensing requires, but just because the state may not be as strict as others doesn't mean that families or birth moms are left unprotected. Like I think we do a pretty good job at protecting them. Okay, so the next claim is women are stranded in Utah and our housing is misrepresented. They're stranded if they don't place, right? Is that what the claim is?
Okay. Yeah. Well, one of the things we tell them in their paperwork and one of that the state form says is that they will have transportation back to wherever they came. And some people have said, oh, you send them home on a bus. We have sent birth moms home on a bus or expectant moms on a bus, but some don't want to fly. They're really scared to fly. And some can't fly because they don't have ID. We run into that a lot where we have expectant moms who come and they've had some chaos in their life and they don't have an ID. And so they can't fly. And so they would go home on a bus. When a birth mom changes her mind and decides to parent, we talk with them and see which flight is best, generally it's a flight. I can pull all of the receipts and redact the names and show you all of them. And I can show you the ones that chose or had to go on a bus. I could show you the reason why they went on a bus. And it would never be just because, We wanted to send them on a bus because they didn't place their baby. Has nothing to do with that at all. We want them to get home safe and sound. We send them with money so that they have money for food at the airport. Send them with snacks. Send them, they have, when they get home, we verify who's going to pick you up from the airport, and, to make sure that they're safe and to keep in contact with us afterwards and let us know that they made it home safely. We pay for their luggage. We pay, if somebody can't pick them up at the airport, we Uber them. And so we care for them as much if they decide not to place as we do if they decide to place. They're a human being that we care about. They're in a tough situation, and we want to take care of them regardless. So,
yeah, great.
What was the other one? Did I miss one part? It was stranded. What was the other one?
Well, they did mention that we have like vacation homes.
Oh, that was it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned earlier that we put the video on our website, and that is because we have women coming all the way across the country. And with how things are with trafficking and just the way that the world is nowadays, that would be really scary if you couldn't trust someone that you were going to. And so we make sure that they can see where they're going to be, that they know who's going to meet them at the airport, that they have seen our license, that they have had a face-to-face, a Zoom or a FaceTime call with the case manager that's going to pick them up, and the case manager is going to take care of them as well as their phone person. So they feel safe coming out. Part of our responsibility, I feel like, is having them have a safe, clean environment in which to stay. There's nothing luxury about it, and there's no trying to coerce by saying, we'll put you in a luxury apartment. They're not. They're nice, they're clean, they're safe. We say we would want to put our daughters in it, or we would want to stay in our places. And that's what they are. They're not luxury, though, but they do deserve to be taken care of. We're not going to bring them out here and put them in some, gross place. And so I'm proud of the apartments that we have and the love. Lisa is the person that puts our apartments together. She puts so much love into these apartments. She'll wrap them up in a little blanket. And she will send me videos when the apartments are ready, and they're beautiful. And it's not any way trying to coerce them. It's trying to love them and help them feel safe and help them feel cared for. That is all it is.
In such a vulnerable time in their lives. Well, and a lot of people aren't loving girls or women from other states coming to our state, and staying in our housing. And I think we should touch on that a little bit, because a lot of, we can't, there's so many reasons why they're doing that. And ultimately it's up to each expectant mother. And if they decide to stay in their home state, that's great. And we will do what we can for you there. But a lot of them choose to come to Utah because of their circumstances.
Right.
And, I don't know. Do you want to say anything about that?
So it's been titled like adoption tourism.
Yeah.
Or that's some of the headlines.
Mm-hmm.
Trafficking birth moms to Utah. And just so that everybody knows, when an expected mom calls we have expected moms before and birth moms after. So sometimes I interchange them, but when an expected mom calls and tells us her circumstance, we have lots of conversations with her about what would be best for her. She gets to choose. And so we would talk about everything available to her in her state, everything available to her if she decides to travel to Utah. Doesn't have anything to do with what's the better law, what's better you can avoid, it doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with what she's most comfortable with. So we tell her, this is what we can help you with if you stay home. This is what we can help you with if you come here. What does your support system look like at home? And what will your support system look like here? And so we help them to see all of their options so that they know what what is involved before they make their decision. We've had some girls that come out here and they say, I think I want to go back home. And they'll go back home, and then we can say, do you want to move forward with your adoption plan there? Do you want to parent? We can work through that as well. And so, that some people aren't going to be comfortable out here for a long time. They'll get lonely. But we have some moms who are in very, very dangerous situations. We have birth moms that are homeless, expectant moms that are homeless. We have expectant moms that have drug issues, and we have no judgment. We work with so many girls that have had issues with abuse, and we don't judge them in any way, shape, or form. We love to help them if they want to come here, and we are well connected with medical community that can help them. And there really is no judgment. And so some of them are in situations where they want to. I don't know if you guys want to see Allie. I don't know if has her podcast come up yet?
Not yet. It will be in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Okay. So watch Allie, you guys. She's an amazing mom, and I actually was privileged to go out and work on her adoption, and she's just an amazing woman. And she, the first time I met her, she was in prison or women's prison, and just so delightful, such an amazing girl. And then I was able to go back out for her delivery, and she told Mandy in her podcast that she'd been sober for 4 years, and that's just amazing. And it started with us being able to take care of her. And sometimes people haven't been loved the way they deserve to be loved, and they don't really even know to look for that. And we don't get a lot of time with our moms, but we just hope that if we love them like they deserve to be loved, that when they go back out into the world, we hope and pray that they'll look for that kind of love, that they won't look for the kind of love that has hurt them prior, if that's been their circumstance. So some in homeless, some in domestic violence situations, some with drug issues, some with absolutely no family support whatsoever. And it's so hard and sad to realize that some people don't have anybody. If they have a support system and they want to stay home, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. We want them to have a support system, whether it's us or the support system they have. And so, so not trafficking and not tourism, just simply giving the birth moms a choice. And the other thing I want to say about that is birth moms and expectant moms, they can travel to another state to deliver their baby. They can travel to another state to have an abortion. They can choose. The government and the public trust them to make those decisions for themselves. However, it doesn't seem that when it comes to adoption, that same trust is given to birth moms. These are smart women. These are women who we empower to make the decision that they know is best for them and for their baby. And we believe they have the right to decide what, when, where, why, how they place their baby.
Yeah. So, that's all I've been thinking through everything you've been saying. Like, why wouldn't they be allowed? Why wouldn't they have that right? Why would that right ever be taken away from them? Why would that law change? Like, that doesn't make sense, to take away a right from a woman.
And the claim is that we're taking them away from their support system, but we would never do that. If they have a support system, we want them to stay with their support system. But the fact of the matter is, many people don't. And it's so sad, but we can be that support system for them if they don't have one.
Yeah. And they don't have to come here to work with us. So I'm glad we cleared that up.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So the next claim is contracts and finances are unethical.
Okay. I think they mentioned in the article that we had her sign a contract prior to coming to Utah. And like I said before, nothing can be signed that relinquishes any rights to a baby until the baby's 24 hours old, at least in Utah. Some moms wait longer. Some want to sign right at 24 hours. Again, they have the choice. Their social worker goes over it with them, and they get to choose. They know the pros and cons. Some other states have longer. waiting periods, and they also have revocation periods. Utah doesn't have a revocation period. Once they sign it, it is irrevocable. And I've heard good and bad on that. Some moms will say, oh, it was nice to just know it was done. And I didn't have to go back and forth, back and forth. Other ones, they'll say that the revocation period was hard. It was a hard time for them. Excuse me. I always think about placement. It's kind of almost like a death. The grief is really almost like a death. And I feel like having a revocation period or the time when they're out, or sometimes it can feel like the time between, if you've ever had a loved one pass away, there's that hard time where you're in limbo between their death and laying them to rest, having the funeral or the celebration of life or whatever you're going to do. It's kind of, you're in that limbo and you can't move forward yet. And it's like, it's not comfortable to be stuck. And so some birth moms really like it to be done at 24 hours. And again, they can choose what they're most comfortable with. We hope that they have chosen long before they get to the hospital and are comfortable moving forward. And we actually do a hospital plan with them so that and it can change. They might say, I don't want to see the baby at all. We really want them to see the baby if they can at all. I just feel like it's healthier, but we'll honor that if they don't want to. But then they might change and say, actually, I want to see the baby, and that's fine. They can do whatever they want to do. They can have whoever in the room they want to have for delivery. They can keep the baby for the whole time to themselves, and we'll kick everybody out and just check on them. Or not, if they don't want us, we're there to support them and advocate for them so that their placement goes as they plan. So they have a hospital plan that will help us know what they're looking for. And also we can share that with the medical team. So if they don't want to see the baby, some girls want to put on headphones and have like a pillow up, which is so heartbreaking, but that's how they need to do it. And so if the doctor throws the baby up on their chest and puts the baby in their face, that's hard. They don't want that, and they're not expecting that. And so we share with the medical team that will help them be able to get the kind of care in the hospital that they're looking for as well.
Where do you think this claim came from of signing contracts before birth? Is there paperwork that they're signing that is not, like placement papers, but where do you think this came from?
So they turn in an application. I don't think there's a signature on that page. There might be, but it's nothing binding. It's just their information. And then they would fill out, I don't think that their non-identifying has a signature on it either. Do you think it does?
It does not.
It does. I think the only signature that they would have prior would be something like an affidavit of birth father, where they would say this is who the birth father is. That would have a signature, again, nothing binding. And then the statements of services would also have a signature which talks about just, this is what we'll do, this is what you do, this is our part, this is your part, so everybody knows what the services are. And so, but again, that's not binding either. It's just more than anything, just what's the word, informational. It's so that they know before they come out we just want to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. So when they come out, they know how things will go.
Yes.
And then there aren't any surprises.
Yeah. Okay. So all informative things that they would be signing or writing their names on, but no
legal
contracts.
Nothing that's binding. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So the last one we're going to touch on is that religion is pushed in Utah agencies. Was that said about our specific agency?
It was abroad.
Utah.
The Utah agencies are all owned by, I can't remember how they worded it, but by women of the predominant religion, and that they're trying to, kind of, what's the word? Kind of funnel them into that whole situation. And we have we have birth moms of all religions, we have families of all religions, we have families of no religions, we have birth moms of no religions, we have workers of all religions and beliefs, and we love that because everybody contributes their wonderful part and their wonderful piece. The thing that we do all have in common is that we love the women that we work with, the families that we work with, and the babies that we work with. And we all feel so honored to be part of something so much bigger than ourselves. Whenever you've been involved in an adoption, if you have been involved in an adoption, you know you're not in charge. It's an amazing process that is so much bigger than any one of us, and it's an amazing experience to behold. And I think that one of the things we have in common is that we're all awed by that. We're not all the same religion, but we're all awed by that and honored by the opportunities to witness.
Yeah, embracing, I mean, they're all coming from different cultures and backgrounds and religions, and I think we all like embrace that and love it and want to learn from them too. Like they have stuff to teach us just as much, and I think we all really love that part of it.
Also, I wanted to just mention that religion is an important thing to many people, and it is to many birth moms. Mm-hmm. And birth moms will say, I want a Catholic family. Like that's how I was raised. Or they might say, I don't want whatever family. I was raised that way and I didn't like it. Or I want a family with no religion. I want a family really religious. And so that's really the only time religion is discussed.
Yeah. And thankfully we have such a wide range of families for the most part that we're able to find that for birth moms, like whatever their preferences with backgrounds or religions, whatever their preferences for families, we're able to find that always. We're typically able to get that for them because we don't require a specific religion from families.
Right. And we also, sometimes moms will come out and they'll say, I want to go to church. And that's great. We'll Google all the churches and they can choose and we'll take them there. And so there's nothing that they're trying to be pigeonholed into any one belief system or religion. So.
Great. That's awesome. Yeah. So we know that there are unethical agencies out there, unfortunately. So what's your response if you hear people say that the adoption system in a whole is unethical or broken?
I've always been somebody that just does my own thing. I don't really watch other agencies.
Yeah.
I've heard things on the news. I know horrible things have happened and they've been terrible. And I know horrible things have happened in Utah with Utah adoption agencies. The hard part for me is that a guardian angel has never had a licensing violation. We've never been on conditional status. We have always gotten our license on time and with great reviews, And so, there's a law. There's a law entailed in licensing, and we can dot every I and cross every T. But for some reason, we're getting whitewashed into this. I don't even know what the word is actually. We're getting kind of
categorized with them.
Yeah, as that we're doing the things that the agencies that have been doing unethical things are doing. And we're not. I mean, none of the claims that were made by the Times were true. And if I could have provided, if there was any way that I could have provided higher education for that girl, I would give them the world if I could. But I have judges that want to make sure that I'm ethical, and I have families that I can't ask them to pay those kind of things. And so we have to be really careful. It's a fine line. We want to take the best care of them in every way we can. And so it's hard sometimes when things go south a little bit, like with that particular mom. She was upset with us because of that. Sometimes moms are grieving, and we all know one of the stages of grief is anger. And sometimes, if they place or not, sometimes will be the kind of object of their anger, and that's okay. We understand that. I would rather have them be angry at me than at the adopted family, or I want them to have a really healthy relationship with their adopted family. And so if they're feeling grief, we totally understand that. The hard part is when we've tried every single thing to care for them, and then it goes south. And I think one thing that I hate to mention, but that happens a lot, is there's a lot of adoption fraud. And a lot of times there are women who, and it's become more common, where there are women who don't really intend on placing their baby for adoption. They come so that they can get all of the care, and they never planned. And sometimes they'll actually choose a family and go through everything, and they didn't plan. If they go through everything and they just can't do it, of course I want them to keep their baby. But there are moms out there who actually plan to not. And if the family's involved, that's so heartbreaking for them. And as an agency, it's hard to absorb all of that cost. Last year, we actually spent over $250,000, and it ended up being in charitable care for birth moms, because we would never ask them to pay that back. And but the thing that happens with fraud is that you don't know for sure if it's fraud, and so it's hard to prosecute. People are starting to prosecute for that, but you don't know for sure. And so if you have a birth mom out here who doesn't want to choose a family, they don't want to meet with their social worker, they don't want to go to the doctor, they don't want to engage in, I understand if they don't want to be one-on-one a lot, but if they aren't moving forward, then sometimes we wonder, and we have to check, are you wanting to move forward, with your adoption plan? And then sometimes if they're not, they'll be upset with us, and so that's hard. That's been hard.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's something we have to kind of look out for now these days.
Yeah, and if you don't want to, I don't want to be jaded. I never want to be jaded. I want to look at every expected mom and believe that she is what she says she is, and I want her to look at us and know that we're what we say we are. And I just want to have an honest relationship, and I don't want that to be jaded by somebody else that totally took it to the cleaner and broke a family's heart at the last minute. I don't want to be like that. So I try really hard not to be jaded or think the worst of somebody. I just want to work through it with them and see honestly where they're at.
Yeah, you do a really good job of that. Was that in the article? I feel like I remember seeing that in there, but maybe I'm wrong, that we have them pay us back for,
Yes.
Was that included? Okay.
Yep. It said that we have to pay us back. Don't ever do that. We've never done that.
Where did that even come from? That's so crazy.
I have no idea. There were so many things in there. In fact, in the article, they have a picture of these apartments, and they say, under the beautiful Wasatch Mountains lie these apartments where all this, terrible stuff is happening with adoption agencies. Well, it wasn't even our apartment. It was some apartments that are 45 minutes away from us.
Yeah.
It wasn't even ours.
At least get your facts straight.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is important to note is that people will say, oh, you're just giving them a wad of cash. You're paying them to place their baby. That's really not what it is. In the state of Utah, a birth mom can receive 6 to 8 weeks support, postpartum support, so that she can recover. And people have opportunities to recover all the time. I think like FSA, people who, before you go back to work, you have the chance to recover from your delivery, and they need to emotionally recover as well from a placement and the delivery. And there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to receive funds so that they don't have to go back to work. And so with their social worker, they'll go over 6 to 8 weeks of expenses, and they fill out what's called a support worksheet. and it will list all of the things. It will list rent. It will list utilities, groceries, transportation, clothing, whatever they need. And it's obviously approved by the judge. When we can, we try to pay vendors. So we'll try to put a deposit on an apartment for them, or gift cards for groceries or whatever. We try to do that so that, number one, I don't want them carrying, cash around because I don't want them to lose it. And number two, we want to make sure that that goes to their care and not to something else. That there's not a buying of babies or a paying birth moms large sums of money for babies. It's simply so that they can live for 6 to 8 weeks without going back to work so that they can recover.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What do you feel like the real impact is of all of this misinformation like this when this gets published?
It's so sad. It's sad on so many levels. So I have an adopted son and I have 2 adopted grandkids. And I feel like when they hear people say that birth moms sell their babies, it breaks their hearts. When my son was little, he actually said that to me, and now it's worse. He said, do birth moms sell their babies? Did my birth mom sell me? Because people say things that are, it's in ignorance, but they say things that hurt them. So that's my big concern, is that it hurts people. It hurts birth moms. It hurts birth moms to say, you sold your baby. That is the meanest thing you could ever say to a woman who tried to choose a better life because she was living in her car, or she was struggling with addiction, or she was in danger, and she chooses a safe plan for her baby, and then someone says you sold your baby. That's so mean. It's so hurtful and destructive. And it also, I feel like it makes women possibly choose other options. Like, what if they're like, oh, adoption is, I don't want people to think badly about me, so I think I'll have an abortion. Or I'll parent, and they really can't parent. And I want to say that there are women out there who have placed their babies who probably could have parented. There are some who maybe shouldn't have parented because of addiction issues, and I want to be careful how I say that because I don't want to be hurtful. But sometimes they'll call us back and they'll say that the state had to step in because they were having drug issues again or something, and at that point we can't help them. And so we just want to be careful the kinds of labels we put on people, because they can choose things that might not have been as healthy for them or their baby. And so I think it really, really, it's good to know. It's good for families and birth moms to vet their agencies. They absolutely should vet their agencies and know. They can call the licensing department. If you look in our press release that we send out, it has our licensor named Bodie, and her information's there. You can talk to her, you can email her, and check on us. And we welcome that, because like I say, we've never had any kind of a violation, and we're so proud of that record. And so I say you should vet, for sure, your agencies. You should vet your social workers that do your home study. You should be careful. But once you find an agency that's ethical, then, you should be able to move forward without judgment.
Yeah. That's great. We know that there's what?
Long-winded on that.
No, that was so well said. You touched on everything so perfectly. And we know there's like a lot of noise out there. Our mission has always been the same: to stand by women and advocate for their choices and ensure adoption is ethical and a supportive process. So if someone wants to learn more or read your full response, because you wrote a full response to the Times article, we only touched on a little bit of it, but if someone wants to read the full response, where can they find that?
We can put the link. Can we put the link in the podcast notes here or something?
Yep.
Okay, we'll put the Times article and the link to my response. Okay. And then you can also follow us on Facebook, Insta, and TikTok, and you can see some of our responses there. You can also see we're doing a really cool series called Ask a Birth Mom. Mm-hmm. And so people can ask birth moms questions and find out what their experience was in general, what their experience was with us. and just learn more about adoption. And then Mandy has some birth moms that are going to share in our podcast. Allie's already done hers. And so we want to share we know adoption's hard. We absolutely know that. We walk it every day with moms, and we know it's hard. But I don't want, in all of this ugly reporting, I don't want the beauty of adoption to be lost, because there is nothing more beautiful than adoption. And I'm so grateful to be part of it every single day of my life.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, and thank you to our for giving our listeners some clarity. I think it's super important, and hopefully this conversation has answered questions for people. And yeah, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.
And if you have more questions, post them below or reach out to us. We're easy to find. We would love to answer any questions you have.
Also, is your response on our website?
Yes, the letter is on our blog.
The letter is on our blog, so that's one more place you can find it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to mention all the places that they can see it, so that they know
we're getting it out there. So,
okay.
Thanks you guys for listening.
Hey, see you guys next time. Thanks for joining us today. Adoption is very personal and looks different to each family. We'd love to hear about your own personal experiences and stories. Please email us your story at info@aguardianangel.com, and your story might be featured in a future episode. If you like what you've heard today, please leave a review and help us spread the word. Speaking of Adoption drops every other Tuesday. Subscribe today so you never miss a single episode. Speaking of Adoption is brought to you by A Guardian Angel Adoptions. If you or someone you know is experiencing unplanned pregnancy and you need to talk or get unbiased advice, our friendly and helpful staff is available to talk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even on holidays. If you need help, guidance, or otherwise, please don't hesitate to text us at 206-360-0020 or call us at 855-402-6435. You can also visit our website at aguardianangel.com. We look forward to speaking about adoption with you next week.